All right, Dr. Rosensweet. So we're going to get started on the FDA coming straight out of the gate. Since this last week, we had that very important meeting at the FDA to take the black box warning off of estrogen, and then also the discussion about testosterone for women. So I'd love to get your opinion. I was between patients and business meetings, and I was like trying to watch it online. And of course, I had, a lot of emotion around it. Let's put it that way. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experience, what you think about it, because I know
Sure.
you spoke to Congress about these things before as well.
Yeah. You know, overall, I'm so grateful. I think just great wonders have been done here. And when I think of my 55-year career as a physician, the word FDA always used to make me shudder because the head of the FDA was a revolving door between someone from big pharma. That's who they would appoint. And they had a vendetta against compounding because they lost so much market share to them.
Mhm.
And for the first time, Dr. Macri and Dr. Brennan, they represent a whole new energy and intention of the highest quality I could possibly imagine. I'm not surprised with Bobby Kennedy and his lifelong devotion to health. And then I thought the expert committee really did the most important thing possible. They want to remove that black box warning, false warning, that estrogen can increase the risk of breast cancer. And that is so critical because it's scared healthcare providers, not to mention women all over the world for so long, that's been the main thing that has done the most damage is Dr. Macari, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I think it's Macri. I
yeah,
think that's right. Either that or we're both wrong.
Dr. Macri has so clearly pointed out the level of injury and biggest healthcare mistake in our time. It's quite
I
a st
agree.
and I agree, I totally agree. So if they can remove that black box warning and all the publicity that's gonna get, that is the most fantastic first step. I also thought what was notable is that I wasn't there, and we didn't bring up compounding bioidenticals because this is a staged process, and I can't imagine any more good being done than removing the black box. And then Dr. Casperson was terrific around saying, "Look, women need commercial testosterone." I'm not a
Yes.
commercial testosterone, but she's bringing up a very critical thing. All women need testosterone, and there was a couple other moments that I wasn't wonderfully satisfied with, but I think overall, Dr. Macri and Dr. Brennan are just a whole new face of the FDA that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, it's as somebody who's been on on the more progressive side of the science, right? Let's just call it what it is, the science. It's like, okay, the data doesn't support the argument that has been presented by the FDA and major medicine for over 20 years. I always and I think a lot of people on this side are like, but that only did so much, right? That we only got like to the 10, the 10-yard line. But the reality is when you're trying to dismantle this massive machine of misinformation, you have to go yard by yard and we have to go slowly, because what'll happen is if you don't and you push for the truth, right? Which is at the, 80th yard, um, then everybody will throw up their hands and say we need more data, right? Because that's the fallback line, of if you push too much for what the real world sees is hey, we've gone too far. But the black box warning, for anybody that doesn't know this, the black box warning was added to any estrogen product, including vaginal estrogen, which is so weak it barely does anything other than protect vaginal tissue, that it was a cancer causing ingredient when all the studies show it's the exact opposite, including the Women's Health Initiative had a 23% reduced risk of breast cancer when the women were on Premarin alone. And it's still, I mean, I was responding to somebody today that sees one of our telemedicine providers, and she was terrified that if her estradiol levels got to 75 on just blood work, that she was gonna be in toxic levels, and I was like, "No, that's where we get ballpark levels that we might protect your brain, your heart, your bones." And it's just, oh, it's such a disservice to women. I mean, we have an entire boomer generation and the the elders of that generation that are in nursing homes, my mom included, that have dementia and broken bones and all these health concerns that had they been put on estrogen and protected with bioidentical hormone replacement, they would be so much better off.
Yes, and just to add to what you said, there was I wish they had gone one step further. The science actually is that women who are on hormones are at less risk for breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke, and they haven't quite crossed that line. They're saying, "Look at the benefits," and they don't announce that science, that women who are on hormones are at less risk for breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke. So, we'll see how closely they play that line, but if they can remove the black box warning, a million miles will have been attained.
Right,
In
right.
the
And then like Casperson said, we need commercially available, levels of testosterone for women. Now, granted, you've been prescribing and people in our community have been prescribing testosterone for forever using bioidentical forms from compounding pharmacies. Because the thing that I am frustrated by with the more conventional menopause society model is they're like, oh, just give them androgel and you sort of guess your way through a man's dose. I was like, that means you get high variability of dosing and inappropriate dosing. Why not just use compounded?
whereas with compounding, it's so easy to be accurate. It is so easy to alleviate symptoms, then confirm with proper 24-hour urine hormone testing. You see what a woman's getting, and
Yeah. So
it's
let's
beautiful.
dig into this compounding argument because this has always been what sort of big pharma pushes, right? Because they're not making money from compounded medications. That is something that's just on the fringe, never really used. It's highly variable, can't be right. But the reality is even in hospital systems, most people that are in critical care are getting things that are compounded. This is commonly used across all areas of medicine. So let's talk about what the reality of compounding and compounding medications really is, because that is pushed as a high agenda item, particularly in the social
Yeah.
media world.